I'm going to say it again. I have absolutely positively no issue with marijuana use for medicinal purposes. I have absolutely positively no problem with marijuana use for pain management. Where you and I part ways as wide as the ocean is for recreational use. The NFL is a private industry, at least to some degree. They have a right to have their rules and regulations. There may be things in this nation that are legal. That doesn't mean that myself, as the owner or the steward of a company, has to allow it in my industry. I wouldn't allow it, plain and simple. And the fact of the matter is that when you have professional athletes out here, again, I'm not talking about those using it for medicinal purposes. I'm not talking about those using it for pain management. I'm talking my opposition is strictly towards recreational use while you are playing the sport. That is a personal problem. I don't give a damn what anybody says. I didn't sit up there and say that the NFL should be in bed with alcohol companies and what have you. I'm not distributors and beyond. I'm not saying that. You know what? If you feel the need to get rid of them too. But what I'm talking about is for the issue of marijuana use. I have personally seen some of the effects that or the effects that marijuana can have on some. It affects some others differently than it affects others. I get that. But guess what? That's not something I'm going to introduce my product to, the audience to with this kind of product. I am not going to risk having professional athletes on a football field in front of paying customers and you're potentially high. I'm not having it. I'm not having it. This is the league.
Can I stop you right there for a second? Because you frequently bring this up when this conversation. Where do you make the jump from recreational use of cannabis in their own time or medicinal use, just use of cannabis? I don't think you need to distinguish, the reason for them using it. On the one hand,
I think so.
And then use during games or during practice. Like with alcohol, are you worried about people showing up drunk to games? That doesn't seem to be an issue. So why are you assuming that if they use it in their personal lives, they'll use it on the field of play any more than alcohol?
First of all, with all due respect, Max, you don't know how I feel about alcohol because we've never had a subject with us broaching the issue of alcohol. You always bring it up, and I co-sign with you on it to say get rid of that too. But we've never brought that up as a subject matter because you'd find that I'm adamant about that as well. I believe that the NFL, listen, you have professional athletes out here, you want to sign on to somebody else's brand. You want to have your hand out for their money, but then make your own rules. It doesn't work that way. That's not the real world. And what I'm most concerned about, it's not so much, Max, of, yes, this is not my preference, but you don't mind it. That's not the issue to me. The issue to me is the rule is in place, and you can't control yourself enough to not do it. And you're willing to jeopardize hundreds of thousands, if not millions of your dollars, so you can smoke some weed. That doesn't make any sense to me. And that's what the issue is.
You and I do this a bunch when this subject comes up. Now I'll move off of recreational use because to me it shouldn't make a difference, and I'll focus on medicinal use. That is also, there's a lot of information that's readily available that the NFL has access to, since any kid with Google has access to it, right? Mm-hmm. So this is my question to you, really. In a league where there has been, in the view of many, an overprescription of painkillers, of opioids, essentially, in a country where we have a legitimate opioid crisis, why is it okay for, even if it's their business, they can do what they want, but we're now judging them? You and I are here judging them morally, ethically, in our own views. Why is it okay with you that they pretend as though the information isn't readily available about the medicinal use of cannabis, and then continue to operate in a culture where they overprescribe painkillers that actually have terrible side effects?
Max, once again, who said it was okay with me? That's not a subject we've ever broached. And whenever we broach the issue of marijuana in the National Football League or any professional sports league, and you bring up all of these other points, religiously, I have agreed with you. Religiously, I've said, Max Kellerman, there's no disagreement there. My opposition to marijuana in professional sports specifically and solely involves recreational use. So much so, Max, obviously, a guy like Snoop Dogg is synonymous with smoking weed. He's unapologetic about it. People have joked he gives new meaning to green rooms, for crying out loud, whenever he makes an appearance. He has literally called into my radio show on at least 2 occasions to co-sign what I'm saying about weed. He's like, look, in my profession, it don't cost me money. But in your profession, it does, as a professional athlete. And if you know that the rules are in place and you can't control yourself to refrain from use, then the problem really lies with you. So what we're talking about here...
But wait, Stephen A., I understand that point, and you've made it before, and I get it. But the question here is, do you have a problem with the NFL's stance on weed? If you want to say, look, if a player knows the consequences and they're willing to sacrifice these millions in order to use this drug, guess what? They have a problem with the drug. Agreed. You say you co-sign with me on that, I co-sign with you there. But the question here is the NFL's stance on it. In other words, the reason those players, even with the problems, are faced with those options are because of the NFL stance. So here we're really asking the NFL's stance on this. I do have a problem with it.
Well, listen, I have a problem with it, too, because they're acting like they're ignorant to things that we know they neither are nor should be ignorant to. So I totally co-sign with you about that. And as a result of it, I think that they need to be honest about what they know, and they need to be honest and fully forthcoming about their total opposition to it. But for me personally, again, the recreational use of it, I'm adamantly opposed to. I will never waver from that position. Okay. But I definitely agree with you about everything else that you say, specifically about the NFL, because you are right about that.